Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all having a lovely Friday evening or whatever time it is where you are. Tonight's chat with the cat. I wanted to talk about the King's Bastion in Gibraltar. It is fabulous. In my opinion, it's better than the dolphin trip. It's better than going to see the monkeys. It really is the unsung hero of Gibraltar. It's a big fort, basically, King's Bastion. The walls are about 15 foot thick. And, I can tell you some stories about that. There are actually dead bodies entombed in the walls. I was assured by one of the managers. When we first moved down here permanently, the first thing I wanted to do, because we couldn't get the kids in school immediately, I wanted them to participate and join in. So we signed them up for Sea Scouts, and Graham and I used to take them down to the old Sea Scouts. It's one of the naval docks, well, it was based in one of the old naval docks that had been filled in. It's kind of weird. You go places in Gibraltar and there's like a big kind of capstan type thing where people, that they would tie the ropes up to the ships, but it's in the middle of a car park. It's all been filled in. They're reclaiming land all the time in Gibraltar. And while the kids were at Beavers, which is what it was called, with Miss Owl, who's an immigration officer on the border, and every time me and Graham go through, or well when he did, we see her, we go, "Hello, Miss Owl," and she's like, "Oh yes, I remember all those years ago." We were wandering around and there's this great big fort, and Graham, of course, really into history. He's like, "Wow, look at this. You can actually see where they filled in, where cannonballs have hit, they filled in with cement." And we worked our way round and we found an entrance. And lo and behold, the Gibraltar government, bless them, had turned it into a leisure centre. The King's Bastion Leisure Centre. Now, back in those days, the bowling centre's still there. It's just fabulous. You walk in, you kind of go through a big tunnel, and the government have put some displays of traditional uniforms in the last great siege of Gibraltar, General Elliot and all that. Look it up, really. There's a very famous painting. Oh, I forget the name of the artist. American artist. I think it might be John Copeland. I'm not sure. Don't shoot me. Anyway, it's a huge painting of the last great siege of Gibraltar. They fought the Spanish off. It was a toughie. And there's a copy of the painting in Gibraltar, but the original is in Guildhall in the City of London, which we all went and saw as a family when we were in the City of London. We happened to go to Guildhall and we all had a big selfie taken with the painting in the background with General Elliot and everybody. I mean, it must have been, it's seriously haunted, this place as well, King's Bastion. Google it. It's wonderful. For years, it was the power station and had a lot of asbestos in it because we knew the guy Liam, who has a specialist company, and he was paid to remove all of the asbestos. So it was the electricity board that had all generators and whatnot inside it for years and years. And then it was closed down and it had been abandoned. I suppose perhaps they discovered the asbestos problem. And then Liam came along and dismantled all the asbestos, and they have done the most wonderful job. Oh, it's just gorgeous, King's Bastion. I had a mate who used to go in there when he was a kid, and he said it was full of snakes, big snakes, and he was big into catching snakes. Actually, there still were some snakes, some big snakes. There's stories in there. So anyway, we would go in there, and they've got the bowling alley downstairs and the ice rink. Yes, Gibraltar has an ice rink for the kids upstairs. They've got rid of it now. It's a climbing centre, and Ben and his mates like to go there now. I think they got rid of the ice rink because sometimes the generators would fail and the ice would start to melt and drip onto the bowling alleys, which are made of a sort of a really fine laminate. And anyway, I worked there. So we turned up in Gibraltar, we've got the kids in Beavers, they're having a lovely time in Beavers, and so every time they were in Beavers we'd go into the King's Bastion and have a good look around, and the government are wonderful in Gibraltar for pointing out history. They're also awesome, I mean fucking awesome, at integrating old architecture with the modern architecture. It's just wonderful to see. I've never seen anywhere that I've ever been in my life do it as well as Gibraltar does. So you go in and you really have the feeling that you're in a fort and that it has military history. But at the same time, I can't believe I didn't take Trevor there, and I don't think Graham did either. Oh my God. And the bowling centre is a huge part of mine and Graham's history and our story because I worked there. Anyway, you go in and there's a glass ceiling and there's actually a glass gantry and spiral staircases. So there's a lot of modern and there's a lot of history there as well. And it's a place where families go. And so after we'd sort of established that we needed to fit a few things on the boat, and then I said, you know, one of us has got to go out and get a job. And I said I would prefer it was me, Graham, because you're mechanically minded, and if anything is wrong with this boat, because we weren't, you know, we'd owned the boat for 3 years, but we'd only come out on holidays before, and I said, you know, the kids are not in school, I'm probably a better babysitter, but if something fundamental happens with the boat, I think you're better than me, so I'll get the job first. So then I thought, I went out looking for jobs, and it was really weird because in the UK you would just email somebody and apply for a job, or you would fill in an online application form. Well, not in Gibraltar. Gibraltar was very old-fashioned then, and it was you had to print a CV off and take a CV in. Everybody said, bring a CV. So I said, I'm going to have to buy a printer and knock a CV up, print some CVs off. And I used to go out every day. Oh, and I had to go to the shops to buy some clothes because you know me, I'm quite scruffy. I thought I'd better wear something fairly presentable to go round handing CVs out. So there was the expense of that and the printer. And I used to go out every day and hand out 10 CVs. I would print off 10 and I would go out. Oh, and you know how our boat used to let the rain in. Oh my God. When we turned up, 2009, the end of 2009, I think it was just before New Year's. I seem to recall that we turned up just in time for Three Kings. We'd missed Christmas, Three Kings, and then New Year's. It had been the 100-year rainstorm, and I was assured by somebody that it had begun to rain on something like the 14th of November. And it continued to rain cats and dogs. I mean, like they were like cigar sticks. Every day without a break. It rained from November to something like the 25th of April. I mean, every building leaked. And of course, we were in utter misery. Couldn't work on the boat and just water. There wasn't as much water coming through in those days as you've seen recently. So, wheelhouse, thank God, has never leaked, and that's where I had the printer. So I'd go out trudging with my 10 CVs in a plastic bag, and I'd go and hand them out. And I wasn't having a lot of success. I got a job pretty quickly at O'Reilly's in Ocean Village as a barmaid. And I didn't actually enjoy that very much. It was all right. They're lovely people who own O'Reilly's. They're very, very famous twins. And they're lovely, but there was this girl who worked there who was ever so slightly my superior. Oh, and she loved to lecture me on the little ketchup sachets. They've all got to be lined up in a certain way and facing the right way round and all the same way up. It's a company standard. Oh, and she went on and on and on and on and on at me to elevate herself, you know. Oh, there we go again, another elevation. And I had also been into the King's Bastion bowling centre, and they had advertised for a barmaid. I thought, great, you know, that's what I got at O'Reilly's. I thought, great, you know, I've done loads of bar work. Well, I got a phone call from a fella who turned out to be wonderful. In fact, that's where Graham got his Gurkha knife off this guy. He was in the army. He was staff sergeant, something like that. And this fella said, I see you came in to apply for the waitress job, barmaid job. He said, I don't want to offer you that. And I went, oh, okay. Why are you ringing me up then? And he said, actually, we need an assistant manager. And my colleague, who you gave the CV to, thinks that you might be okay for it. So I went in, I had a ton of interviews, met the people who owned the contract to run the bowling centre. A lot of people are very scared of them. They're, again, another really well-known family in Gibraltar. I adored them. They're called the Russos. I will name them. I adored them. They're a lovely family, but a lot of people are very scared of them in Gibraltar. And I got the job. Graham was like, I can't believe it. You got a job in the King's Bastion, where we've been going after, you know, while the kids are in Beavers with the, we were taking them to Beavers in the pissing rain. Oh yeah, every time. Oh my God, we were dedicated parents then, because it was a long walk. They were dedicated kids for doing the walk. But they loved Beavers and Miss Owl and all that. So I got the job there. And the other managers, I loved them. I loved everything about King's Bastion and King's Bowl, as it was called. And there's a cinema upstairs, and they have all like arcade machines everywhere. And one of the other assistant managers said to me, oh, you're on shift on Friday. I said, oh, I don't mind doing Friday. She said, no, that's not the problem. She said, if you can survive a Friday, you can survive anything. Well, I didn't know exactly what she meant, but there used to be a kids' nightclub upstairs, dedicated for kids. A wonderful idea. They're brilliant in Gib with these sort of ideas. I think it's a normal nightclub these days for adults, but in those days, it was for children. It was a non-alcoholic bar with disco lights and music, and they would pay, I don't know, a couple of quid to get in. But it closed at 9 o'clock, and then there were about 300 kids wanted to go somewhere, and it would be the bowling centre. And she wasn't wrong. I mean, they were adorable, but yeah, a handful, little bit of a handful. And we had the slush puppy machines, which were extremely popular. I'll have a blue and a red, and I want a blue, a red and a green. Anyway, the people that I worked with there, all the staff, they were awesome. We used to have such a laugh. In fact, I don't think I ever worked anywhere, no offence to the Dolphin Safari, I don't think I ever worked anywhere in my life where I would laugh so much. I mean, the first team I had, they were just so funny, so awesome, so full of personality. This was a year after Gibraltar's contestant had won Miss World. Oh, now what's her name? She's the mayor of Gibraltar now. I think she's called Kayana or Kyan. I can't remember her name, but she's stunning. And she had won Miss World. So when she won it in 2009, she'd come back to Gibraltar, landed on a plane, red carpet, a whole country there. Yes, we won. Well, she came through the bowling centre one night with her boyfriend, and everyone went, oh, Kyan, I think she was called Kyan. Everyone went, Kyan's here. All the boys ran to see Kyan. And her boyfriend sort of said, oh, fuck off. And one of them said, who do you think you are? And one of the others said, well, he's the boyfriend of Miss World. He's got a lot to shout. Anyway, one of these people, we were all trained on the pin machines, go round the back, the pin room, because the balls get jammed quite a lot. And it was just tremendous fun. And one of the people who worked there was a fella called John. I think I'm quite safe to use just his first name, John. And everybody kept saying to me, "Oh, be careful of John, be careful of John." I'm like, why? Oh, he was so funny, so charming, and he's really successful now, married, really good looking, kids and everything. I'm so pleased for him because it wasn't always easy for him, and everybody kept saying, "Be careful of John." And so I said to John, "Why does everyone keep saying this about you?" And he said, "Well, I was Gibraltar's most wanted." I said, "You were fucking what?" And the old prison they used to have in Gibraltar was Moorish Castle, basically. And because it's all old military, oh, it's so fantastic, Gibraltar. Some of the prisoners found, and the walls were a little bit crumbly, they could escape on a Friday night and leave the prison, go down the tunnels to Casemate Square, get pissed, go back to girls' houses and stuff, and then they could get back in the way they came out. Well, one week, John and a couple of his mates, they couldn't find, when the time came for them to go back, they couldn't find their way back. So he went back to a girl's house and he was like, holy shit. He tried a few times, I think, to get back into the prison and he couldn't. And he was Gibraltar's most wanted and they were all gossiping about him. And I thought, oh my God, wait till they hear about me. Fucking hell. Which, of course, they did eventually. Thanks to a certain Dada narcissistic psychopath who, him and his little flying monkeys made sure they emailed my bosses at the bowling centre, who actually, bless them, said, "I don't care, Fiona, you make our tills ring and you do a good job and you're a hard worker. What we need is more of you, not less of you." But then, because they'd started to infiltrate my work at the bowling centre, I'm going home, I'm becoming aware of other staff members, police turning up. I thought, I can't fucking risk this. And it broke my heart to leave the bowling centre, actually. It really did. And it's a fantastic centre if ever you are in Gibraltar. And by the way, thank you very much to the gentleman who came out to visit recently, total gentleman who came out on the Spanish side and took me for lunch the other week, last week. Very, very charming gentleman. And told me a lot of stories from New Haven. It was haunted. It is haunted, King's Bastion. I always felt safe when I was there, even when it was really quiet and it was basically just me there alone. I always felt safe in the fort. It is a fort. There were snakes that would come up. There was a hole behind the bar, and I'd been assured by several members of staff that big snakes had come up, and they'd caught one on CCTV. A great big, they said the girth of it was like that, about 6 or 7 foot long, had been filmed going up the glass staircase. I personally never saw any snakes. I personally never saw any ghosts, but my mate who was a security guard, she did. She said, because at night, once everybody had gone, one of the guards would go around and the other would remain in the tower on the radio watching them going around on the camera. And she'd gone up to the kids' nightclub, the non-alcoholic nightclub, and she's working her way round, and her colleague said on the radio, "There's a man in there. There's a man behind you." And she turned round and said, I can't see anyone. And he said, "He's right in front of you, Dion." Her name was, I think I'm quite safe to say Dion. In fact, bless her, I think she might have died since. And she said, I can't see him. What are you talking about? And this guy was going crazy. He went, "He's right in front of you." And then she said, she heard footsteps, and this fella said, he's running. And he ran past Dion, and as he passed her, she saw him, and he ran straight through a wall. And she said he was like in olden days, like a red uniform. And she went straight back to the tower. She said, well, that wasn't a person. He went straight through a wall. And when they rewound the tapes to watch it, it was all white noise. There was no evidence. And it was so peculiar because that had never, ever happened. You know, the tapes had never come up with white noise before. Make what you will of that. And another mate of mine, who, like I say, he was one of the managers of the actual whole complex. He said to me, when they were developing it, they found there are some doorways, and he'd shown me one of the doors. There were doors that go into the wall because the walls are so thick. And he said that door is sealed up. He said, I was here when they opened that up. You know, it's one of these really old doors. And he said there's all skeletons and they're all wearing old uniforms. And he said they started pulling them out, but there were so many piled on top of each other. And he said it must have been from the days of the Great Siege. And they didn't know where to put the bodies, so they've put them in the walls. And he said in the end, the government decided best leave them there and not mention it. And he said that's why we have all the displays to pay respect and homage to all the dead soldiers in there. Yeah, if you're ever in London, in the city of London, go to Guildhall, and I'm sure it's called I'm sure the artist was called John Copland or Copeland or something like that. I think so. I mean, you'll have to forgive me, but I do know he was an American. And he painted it. It's a wonderful picture of, you know, all on horseback and fire in the background and stuff. And they have a replica here in Gibraltar. So I thought I'd just tell you those few stories about the bowling centre. Graham we used to love it when Graham and I had the changeover, because he would work all day at the Dolphin Safari, and he'd finish at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And kids had come home from school by then, and I would start the night shift, so then I wasn't going to work till about 6. And so we had this crossover time, and I'd say to him, what's happened at Dolphin Safari today? And he'd be telling me all the gossip about all the police officers turning up. And he'd say, what happened at the bowling centre last night? And I'd tell him all the gossip about all the stuff that had happened at the bowling centre. It's a magical place, Gibraltar, it really is. Has its ups and downs, you know, as anywhere does. But on the whole, it really is. It's an exceptional place. And if ever you come visit Gibraltar, please check out the King's Bastion. As I say, the ice rink's gone now. We thought that was kind of ironic for a country just 14 miles away from North Africa. It's so hot down here. It must have cost them a bloody fortune keeping that ice rink going. And for the kids to go skating, it was like £2 each. So they were certainly not making the money back on it. And I think the climbing frame is actually quite successful these days. Anyway, I thought I'd tell you that. And keep this channel going. I've had quite a successful, productive day today. I managed to move all the heavy stuff to the boat today from the house, involving getting on with work. Got to get on with work on the boat tomorrow. I'll be heading down there, and do you know, it's really weird. I can smell petrol. Loads of petrol. That is strange. It's an overwhelming waft of petrol. Anyway, I'll go and investigate. So yeah, I've been watching Life and Loves of a She-Devil today again. I feel really sorry for Mary Fisher, actually. I always used to think she was awful, but watching it back now, I'm thinking, was she actually bent over back? Apart from shagging somebody else's husband, that was naughty. But she actually, oh my God. Oh, the smell of petrol's really strong. Anyway, I better go and check it out. Thank you all very much for listening. May your God go with you.